Youth for Inclusive Society, University of Hyderabad, for inviting us to this webinar. I have today with me Sham, who's the Senior Program Manager at Amazon, looking at two countries, uh, big regions, in fact, not just countries. One, the entire Middle East, and another North Africa. So, Sham, a very warm welcome to you to this beautiful morning and students here. Sham, tell us something about your academic family background, how you went about working with the Indian Navy to studying at ISB and now working with Amazon. How did such diverse things happen?
Okay, so I think there's hardly any plan to all this, right? So uh, I studied in a Kendriya Vidyalaya, and it was an army cantonment. I have no background. My parents are not in the defense. So I used to see this army uniform all around me when I was in school. And since I was a school captain, I got to interact with the commanding officers and folks like that who came in for the annual day sports day. So I was mega impressed, like most uh, kids in those days were. So I decided that I wanted to join the defense. And my father thought that I should go to IIT. So he enrolled me for an IIT coaching classes. In those days, it used to be, you used to get a books home by post, and then you have to do assignments and send it and stuff like that, right? This is, I'm talking about 3 years after the dinosaurs were extinct. So then I had no doubt that I would never make it across the gate of an IIT on my merit. So I did write the IIT JEE like a lot of PCMB students in those days did, and absolutely wasn't surprised that I didn't get through. But I did get through the Navy, and to cut a long story short, on my 18th birthday, I stepped into the Naval Academy in Goa, which is now moved to Kerala, but in those days it was in Goa, and it was called INS Mandavi. So that completely changed my life. And I had a very glamorous image of looking at people in uniform and stuff like that. I didn't know what went into making those people. And I learned it the hard way across 4 years of very, very rigorous training, and then got commissioned. Uh, I chose to be a technical officer. So I did my BTech Naval Architecture. And after that, thankfully, since I didn't fail too much, they sent me to IIT Delhi for my PG. I finished that, and then I worked in the Navy from 1999 to 2016. And by then, I had finished 20 years of commission service, and I was eligible for a pension. So I thought, okay, so in very typical Munna Bhai style, if you say, there was a chemical locha in my head which said, why don't you go try doing something else? Because 24 years of your life, all you've seen is white uniform and ships. So I said, okay, let me go do something else outside. So then a lot of people thought I was mad because I was not suited for outside, and I'd seen nothing. I knew nothing about corporate other than what I read in the newspapers and articles. But I said, okay, I mean, they're all finally human beings here and there, so let me try. So I said, okay, what have I done? I said, I've done project management. So I went and did a PMP because a lot of people said PMP is good. Uh, so I was 41 years at that time. So I did my PMP. Then somebody said MBA is good. So I said, okay, that shouldn't be lacking in my resume when I start job. They shouldn't not make me a CEO because I'm not an MBA. So I went and wrote a GMAT. Proper 3 months. I royally slogged it out. Went and wrote a GMAT. Got a good score, which is considered good. I got a 710 in GMAT. And then people said, okay, you should apply. Now you've got a 710, you should apply for US universities and top 20, 25 universities. That's where they want diverse profiles. So by then Trump was almost happening. So I had no doubt that even if I spend close to 80, 90 lakhs and go to an MBA outside, Trump might still ask me to come back to India and work. And getting return on investment wouldn't happen. So by then I also got admitted to ISB. And that's where Ananya and me were in the same class, in the same section. I was technically in a class of 905 people. I was the second oldest at 42. The youngest was 22. So that set me up beautifully in terms of more than the academics. What I learned there is what do people who are 24, 25, 26, and 30 and 32 want in their lives? how do they make decisions? How do they look at problems? How do they resolve issues different from what I do? And that helped me to make my way into Amazon, where I have done two roles in Amazon. I did an operations role in Hyderabad first. Uh, I went to a conference. I met somebody who then offered me a role in Dubai in a program role, which is again completely different. And went there and then started doing multiple things. Thanks to that, got promoted last month. So most of this I don't think is planned. It is, I just set a goal and I said, okay, I want to do this, and along the way kept improvising into what was needed to reach there. So, I mean, you look at it like you want to drive from, say, Bangalore to Bombay. You make out a plan, you start doing things. In between, you run out of fuel, you fill fuel, you have a flat, change your tire, do things like that. You're hungry, stop for a second, take rest. If you're sleeping, put on the AC, sleep for 5 minutes, right? I did exactly that in my life, and I try and keep my life very simple. I don't complicate it. Yeah, that's about it. That's a long story short.
That's a very inspiring journey, Sham. A lot of experiences I'm sure you've gathered through the years. And a very nice thing you said about, learning how people from different age groups think and think about problems, think about solving them. So what have you seen, Sham? Like, how do you think, people, you've got a varied background with a lot of interacting with a lot of people, right? So what do you think are the top three challenges that people of this generation are now facing? This generation meaning, say somebody in their 20s and just going into their 30s. What is the challenge that they are facing? What are the top three challenges that come to your mind?
Firstly, I mean, I'm going to burst a lot of myths here, Ananya. So I'm going to start off with bursting three myths which I think are overrated. Number one is I don't need people skills. There are a lot of people who think I don't need people skills. I don't intend managing a huge organization or being a CEO, right? But I mean, you must have seen this. Most people who work, who have work experience in this group also might have seen it. Whether it is for your negotiating a pay rise with your boss, to asking a different team for resources, for making a plan saying, let's do this, anything requires people skills. So firstly, please do not come under the thing that I do not need people skills because I'll not be a people manager. Second is, I've seen in the Navy and in Amazon, a lot of people saying, I'm an introvert. So how do I, manage people? How do I deal with people? Guys, trust me, more than 50% of the leadership I've seen in Amazon are complete introverts, and they do really, really well, right? So it has got nothing to do with being an extrovert or an introvert. It is being able to say what you want, when you want, and how you want it, and convincing the other person exactly what you're saying. The third one is that, oh, I didn't study in an English medium school. I can't make speeches in English, so I'm not as good as the person sitting next to me. Absolutely not. Trust me, I've gone to school when there was no electricity in my house, right? I have seen the first television when I was probably 15 years old. I've gone to a basic Kendriya Vidyalaya, which did not even have a building. It had, what do you call this? Banana leaf, coconut leaf kind of roofs on the top. So if I can get where I can, I think each of you can. So keep all these myths out of your head. And there is nothing that a 20 something today has to do different something to a 20 something when I was 20, right? Let's get that out of the way. We are finally dealing with people. There are more people in the world today than there were earlier. There are a few extra tech gadgets and stuff. There are different ways of doing work. But all said and done, at the end of that machine, at the end of that process, at the end of that ball, there is a human being, right? So you need to deal with these people. Now, three things which have worked for me in the Navy. Again, let me give you a quick example here. So I was trained to deal with Navy people in uniform. The first appointment I had after my IIT Delhi PG was I was sent into a naval dockyard, which was a department of close to 500 people, and they were unionized civilian government employees. So you know the general mindset about government employees. They come in when they want, they don't work, you can't fire them, right? And this is a person who's only seen white uniform and navy people and stuff like that, and I'm supposed to manage these people. So what has worked for me is try and understand what does that person think and why should that person do something which you want them to do. In simple words, you can call it empathy. Try to understand, if you were that person and somebody came and told you do this, why would you do this? First and foremost, right? There is static inertia is everybody's favorite position to be in. So if things were to change, why should we change? So explore the why and sell that why to that person. Second is, I want all of you to do an exercise. Just hold up your hand, right? You've got 5 fingers in a hand. Now look at your 5 fingers and tell me which of those 5 fingers are exactly identical. They're not. They're not identical for a reason, because if you want to hold something, if all 5 of these fingers are the same length, they don't work. You want to hold a pen, you can't hold a pen with 5 fingers which are equal length, right? So each person that you deal with is going to be different. So how can you understand what appeals to that person and then motivate that element for that person? For some people, it might be just you call that person in front of a group of 50 people and say, great job done. That might fire him for the next 20 years, right? There might be another person who's got a ton of loans. Now, for that person, finance is very important, and you may not be able to give the money that that person wants. Now, how do you have that discussion? So there may be people who say once a week they want to work from home because their child is not well. These are typical problems you will find at work. So there are no cut and dry solutions of which you can learn in a book, right? It is as simple as how will you deal with your different friends when they're in different moods every day. Just apply exactly the same at work and try level best not to go by ranks that, okay, I'm a manager, this person is a deputy, this person is my chowkidar. Treat each of those people differently, treat them as human beings. You'll be surprised at the kind of response that you get from people, right? Just this, the guy who sells you vegetables at home during a lockdown, probably your building security. Do you know that person's name? Do you know what they do? Do you know if they have had a meal when you're going out for a walk or going out to buy vegetables, right? Have you asked that say, shopkeeper, is everything okay at home? These are simple questions to ask you. I mean, you trust me, you can't imagine the kind of goodwill and bonding that these will create. And these are exactly things that you do at home or in your premises, which will replicate at work. So as far as I'm concerned, it is understanding why you want something to be done. There's a good series of videos on YouTube if you want to understand this concept further. It's by Simon Sinek. It is the art of asking why, or starting with a why. Second is, what's in it for me? Why should that person do it? Right? Third is, remember the 5 fingers are not the same, so everybody is going to be different. Treat each of them differently and understand what they want specifically before asking them. And be flexible to change your thoughts if somebody else has a better idea. And 99%, they will have a better idea than you do. Just graciously accept it. You need things done, not things done your way.
That's a very, very pertinent point, Sham. You beautifully put, how students can prepare themselves to deal with challenges that are coming in workplace. And mostly these challenges have been there for ages, and leaders and people have been dealing with it in their own ways. Probably technology has added that one more layer to, make communication simpler. Imagine times when you had to, handle a troop of 4,000 people and there was no WhatsApp to communicate immediately. How are they doing it?
They
And
still
today,
don't do it. They still don't do it on WhatsApp.
but I'm sure there's technology that helps them, communicate faster. Whereas in the olden days, they didn't have this. So maybe we are at a better position, better place generation today to handle people issues better and communicate with the other person and understand their problems. Now, coming to the next question, Sham, we spoke about a lot about what was happening, what people should do now. So, what do you think future workplaces will look like? Also, since you're managing a lot of global groups, and the COVID outbreak has come in, so how will all of this change, and what does it mean for students?
Okay, so if I understand your question correctly, you're asking how our future workplace is going to be different and what should people do to succeed in those scenarios. Is that your question? Okay.
Yes.
So first, I think we need to accept a lot of companies which thought they cannot work from home, ABC reasons, people are working from home, the world is still going on, the sun is still rising, sun is still setting, nothing has changed, right? Virtual is almost as good as on-site, which is what has got proven in the last 2 months. Another thing that has got proven is that each of us, you and me, who thought we couldn't sit home for 2 months can also sit home and still survive. Of course, there'll be things like you wouldn't want an eye surgery done by somebody doing it on remote and telling you how to take an instrument and poke your own eye, right?
Yeah.
Farming, building rockets, spaceships, I'm sure they're not going to do it anytime soon on virtual mode. But yeah, most things can get done. There are even items getting delivered by Amazon in US using drone. So these are all things which can come in. So virtual is here to stay. That's my first point. The second is look at the world we are in today, right? These don't require me or Ananya or global leaders to come here and tell you things. All you have to do is look around you. What is changing in the last 5 years or 10 years, right? You're living in a world where there are finite resources. People said oil cost, now oil cost has come down. But all said and done, when things get back to normal, there are so many finite resources available for this human world, and the population is only going to increase. So what do you do if you have a bucket of water for the whole house, and earlier there were two people, and now your parents have come in and there are four people, and you still have only one bucket of water to manage, right? You would use less, you would use conservative, which is exactly what will be required going forward, because whether it's electricity, whether it's resources, whatever it is, resources are going to get scarcer and scarcer, and we will need to do more with less. What does that mean for jobs? Renewable energy. India is a country where we have 320 or 330 sun days in a year, right? Are we making most of our electricity out of solar? No. We have got thermal plants, we've got wind power in some places, we've got water power in some places, all kinds of things are available. Plus, that's on power generation and usage side. Second is the lot of vehicles moving to electric. That's another industry which is going to come in, because we cannot have dependence on continued dependence on convention. Number three is going to be the amount of waste we are generating. Just look at your respective houses, from probably Bisleri water bottles to shampoo bottles to milk packets to the amount of plastic and stuff that is getting generated, right? Diapers. One of the biggest selling items on e-commerce today is diapers. Imagine where all this is going, right? You know about, I mean, I don't know about, some of you probably at least have heard of this place called Devnar in Bombay, which has got landfills, which are smoking volcanoes right in the middle of the city. This will only increase globally. This is a big problem to solve. Right? Third, even this session that we're having, what about 20 people, 25 people sitting here, right? All logged in from your phone or computers. What does Zoom have? Zoom has your IP address. It is connected to you. A lot of data which you have is available out on the internet for anybody to use. Data security, cyber security, data protection, individual data protection to organizational data protection, these are going to be big. The next wars are not going to get fought on land or in the air. They're going to get fought in the cyber domain. So these are all things which have changed in the last 10 years. Similarly, these are just what I'm flagging, three things, right? Just look around yourself in areas which you know. You'll identify tons of things which have changed. And each thing which changes gives you an opportunity for a new solution. So I don't want to give you one, two, three, these are the things which are going to change. I just want you to, it's like, give a person a fish, that person is, hunger is met. But if you teach the person how to fish, that person has a job and will not go hungry again. That's some old saying. Think on those lines. How do you identify opportunities? And do not depend on, okay, my father did this, mother did this, uncle did this, so I need to do this. There are tons of opportunities. Look at the kind of organizations which are flourishing today. I personally know of organizations which manage waste and have turned billionaires. And that person went and got married to a lady whose father owns cargo ships. Imagine, that is another opportunity tapped. So I'm not saying you guys should do the same, but I'm just telling you that anything is possible.
That was really insightful, Sham. In fact, I learned a lot in 10 years that I have been working. At least, I have seen things change rapidly every single year. From there being no digital ways of reaching out to people, today 50% of our budgets go into digital.
Right.
So a lot has definitely changed. So Sham, you've been a leader for almost like 20 to 25 years, 30 years, managing people, managing a lot of, upheavals in the system. So tell us one incident from your days as a soldier that really shaped you, shaped who you are today. What would your advice from that incident? What would your advice to students be to fight today's, challenges? I'm sure as a soldier, you've seen a lot of challenges. I'm just asking you for one, incident that remains with you till date.
That's a complicated question. That's like asking somebody in this group, tell me one thing you learned at school which is of use to you today. So there are tons of things which have got learned, which have, whether willingly or unwillingly, have been made to learn, or probably I learned it myself, whatever. But yeah, jokes apart, I think two things which actually strike me from my uh, Navy journey, which till today help me. One is playing as a team. Right? You might be the leader, you might be a member, but I can give you a simple example. So we have, when we cadets, we have something called a camp where you run very long distances with backpacks and rifles and just one small bottle of water. And it's not early morning runs like we have for fitness right now. You start at 8, 9 in the morning and you're running till 12:30, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, right? And the whole group of about 40 or 50 people need to reach from place A to place B. Now, again, come back to the five-finger example. There are people in that group who cannot run. Say, after 30 minutes, they just refuse. They just stop and say, I'm walking or I'm sitting down. Until the time the entire group reaches from here to there, your job is not done, right? So personally, I have been part of this team where we had 50 people going on a group like this. And we distributed, one person's rifle goes to somebody, one person's backpack goes to somebody. You share your water, even if only so much is there with somebody else. And then the whole team gets across.
Sham, just interrupting you for a second. Somebody is not able to hear you. Maybe you could come closer to the microphone.
Okay. Is that okay?
Yeah, I think I'm able to hear clearly, Sham. Please go on. Thank you.
Meenakshi, is that okay? Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Sorry for that. So I'm saying that's one. So the similar, I mean, I don't know much about IT projects and stuff like that, but I would assume that anything which is a collaborative output would be determined by each individual contributor coming together to do their bit for the team effort to be finally done and through, right? That would be one. The second is always have a plan B. Never ever go into anything with one plan. So to give you a personal example, when I left the Navy, I said, okay, I will do an MBA. What if I did not get an admission for an MBA? So I had a plan B. I went into ISB with the single aim of joining Amazon. What if I did not make that? I had a plan B. Similarly, for anything. And what is very surprising to me is when I joined Amazon, exactly the same thing exists there in terms of decision making. But there it is called a two-way door, right? If you just Google Amazon two-way door, it'll give you lots of stories of that. It is basically, look at it like as a rotating door in a hotel when you're entering, right? You make a decision, go into a room. You shouldn't get stuck there without, if the decision is wrong, you should be able to come out. So that's a two-way door. It goes that way. And then if the decision is wrong and you've done something wrong, you should be able to come out and do it again. So that is exactly what a plan B is. So everywhere in the military, I mean, most of you know that, right? Because everybody watching TV today is as educated and well informed as a general on the field now, thanks to social media and TV. Everybody goes in with a plan A and a plan B. So as far as I'm concerned, my takeaways from my work experience have always been that make sure that the entire team is in it together and pulls through together. It is always the team success that matters. One person cannot, one Lionel Messi or one Cristiano Ronaldo cannot win a World Cup. Second is anything that you do in your personal life, always make sure to have a plan B. these are, I would say, two things which have stuck with me. I don't want to get into examples of this happened on the ship and stuff like that, which are not relevant for this group. So I'm just telling you two things which are applicable for anybody out on the city.
That's really great, Sham. Plan B, and ensuring that you are you are working with your team. There are no prima donnas. There are no people who who are ruling the world without a team supporting them. It's a very important takeaway, guys, for today, that whatever happens, whenever it happens, your team is very important for it. Even if you succeed in life, there is a team of family members, team of your peer, friends, etc., who are helping you be successful. So always be grateful to them, I guess, and always make sure that you're connected to them. It really helps. Sham, we have 2 more minutes to open the floor for questions. There's some people who are writing to us about some of the doubts that they have. Meanwhile, I'll just go to a very burning topic that students are facing today, and we've received some question regarding this. That COVID-19 seems to have changed everything about socialization in student space. Like when we were students, probably, we would hang out with each other. There was no concept of social distancing. Now, if you have to give a high five also, you need a glove, right? So a lot of things are happening virtually, but that human connect is also important, right? So how should students sail through this phase? What should they do with so much time that they have on their hands now? And how should they keep especially their mental health in check? Like isolation does bring in some level of some level of mental issues. So how should they go about it?
Great question. Yeah, I think that's a very relevant question for today. And again, I think we complicate our lives too much. Life is not as bad as we're making it out to be, right? How long is COVID? Always look at what is the worst that can happen and plan backwards, right? Let's look at COVID. What is the worst case scenario which anybody around the globe has predicted? How long is this COVID going to be with us? 18 months, right? So plan backwards from that. Tell me, in the last 2.5 months, have you actually felt that you're going to die because you're sitting alone at home or things like that? Another simple question. What is it that you've always wanted to do, but was always your reason why you couldn't do it? I didn't have time. You've got all the time in the world now. Have you done it? Simple things. You said isolation. People have got WhatsApp. People have got WhatsApp video. You've got Zoom. You've got Teams, Skype. Dime a dozen tools. How many of your school friends have you had a video chat with? Have you utilized one of these platforms to get together 10 people from your cousins and friends or whatever your family group and meet and talk to people who you have not talked to in ages? I did that. And trust me, it's a huge feeling of relief where you suddenly feel, wow, I'm able to see this person. This is what technology brings you today. Sitting at home, you can talk to your probably relatives who are back in Vizag or Tirupati or probably Canada or US. And all of you can talk to each other, seeing your faces without the need to travel. This is technology right on your hand, fingertips, in your mobiles. Use that. Second, you wanted to do so many things earlier until 2 months back and never had the time. Now you have the time. Have you got a priority list of at least 3 things that you want to do and have done in the last 2 months? I have. The new look. I never did because I always thought this will never grow back. And this was not permitted when we were in the forge. So this is something I've tried. Multiple different things that I'm trying out now, which because I've got all the time in the world. Earlier, probably you had to commute 30 minutes, 45 minutes one way to office. You don't need to do that. What are you doing in that 1.5 hours? Even if it is sleep, meditate, exercise, just make out a priority list for yourself. Now coming to physical fitness, mental fitness, tons of things. I'm sure you cannot have one Facebook session of 15 minutes without running into some app which says you can do this at home and keep your health intact. And if you don't like people like me and Ananya saying, Shah Rukh Khan, Hrithik Roshan, every guy is out there telling you what they do in life and how they build biceps and this and that. And try out something, right? You got all the time in the world. I'm sure you got chairs, you got tables, you got floor, you got sofas at home, dining tables. All of these are tools. bucket, fill bucket with water, lift it up. That's a dumbbell. Use your creativity. You don't need a gym. You don't need anything. Being at home and having battery backup, power and Wi-Fi and a phone, you should be as good as before COVID. Even, and think that this is going to last for 18 months, right? And then work towards that. And then 2 months down the line, when things are back to normal, you will find it, oh, that's over so fast. And already I've done 1, 2, and 3, which I couldn't earlier. Even if it means talking to 10 of your friends who you have not for ages.
That's beautiful, Shyam.
Skills, sorry, just one point on skills. If you want, one good thing to learn would be a topic called change management, right? Don't wait for your MBA courses. Just read up on change management. There are tons of videos and stuff about change management, how you go into that, right? And if you're into reading, I would very strongly urge you to read a book called Who Moved My Cheese? It is probably 100 pages and you can read it in probably 3 hours if you're a slow reader. It'll change your life completely. So utilize your time for these kind of things. Build up things which you do not have right now. All you have right now in excess is time. Use it.
That's beautiful, Shyam. That's really something that I have been listening from a lot of people, that there have been problems, there have been issues with mental, keeping yourself sane during these times. Connecting with people virtually is something that any one of us can do at any point in time today. So we must try it. So Shyam, we have 3 minutes left on our time. So there are some students who are asking, what are the possible jobs of MBA students to get into armed forces? Wow, that's a great question. It's the reverse thing that the person is asking. This is Ravinder. He asks, how can I, yeah.
So, Ravinder, fortunately or unfortunately, I don't think there is an entry for an MBA into the military, right? What the military looks at are essentially officers and the Jawans or sailors and airmen. It looks at a graduation criteria as far as if you want to get into the officer cadre. Now, if you are an MBA, it's a plus. If you're a postgraduate, it's a plus. But there is no specific role for which they recruit MBAs into the military. But if you apply into a graduate entry program, if you meet those requirements, and if you have an MBA, that's something you bring in a lot of value, which especially in the logistics and those kind of branches, you definitely can make a lot of difference by having done an MBA.
Involved here with some NGOs and helping my friends out there in that area.
Oh my God, how is the situation now, Shaurya?
It's actually not in control. To be frank and to be open, the situation is, they are telecasting that it's under control, but it's not under control.
Oh my God, and is have they at least, been able to contain the leakage that's now flowing through the other areas?
People are being evacuated, but whenever they're trying to control the leakage, I mean stop it by making some arrangement, the gas is again coming out. Pressure is high. So as of now, the remedial measures are in process, but they are not fruitful.
Oh, we really hope they get things in place soon. And there's a lot of chatter on why a non-essential service was open during this time. So hope things in control and life.
The thing is, it's not about non-essential thing, Ananya. The problem is about when the lockdown, they gave some relaxation to this manufacturing industries. So, when they opened it up, they were not able to maintain. The company shouldn't stop functioning actually, but because of this lockdown, they stopped the functioning for some months. So the gas got accumulated with pressure in the pipes. So when they had to do a proper maintenance and they had to check up the safety protocols, but without anything, so they just started the production. So this pressure which got accumulated due to the lockdown, it made all the mess here.
It's really sad to hear. I hope things get back to normal soon and people are not inconvenienced so much, especially when the COVID outbreak is also going on. So Shaurya, we have Shyam with us now. So do you have a question for Shyam that you want him to address?
Hello, Shyam.
Hi, Shaurya. Incidentally, on the same topic which you mentioned, Shaurya, I've heard from my Navy friends at Vizag that the local population there and the civil administration is doing an outstanding job there, especially the people who are living in that area. So if you're one of the people who are working with NGOs, great job on whatever you're doing there.
Actually, the evacuation part, the job was done very well. People were they were evacuated from that place very well in a fast pace. But among this, when there's a COVID outbreak, there is no social distancing in this chaos. The problem is COVID and this gas leak combination. So people were being evacuated at a faster pace, but in that haste, social distancing was actually forgotten. So now our fear is not only about the gas leak; it's about the rise in corona cases because of this issue.
Got it.
And cumulatively, the people who were not in that area, other people got into unnecessary haste, and they started moving into this beach side and everything, the naval area side. So they don't need to actually fear about this incident, but people who shouldn't need to fear, they got feared and they also moved out of their homes. So this created a kind of cumulative problem.
Okay. Did you have a question?
Actually, the local police, the local youth, and Navy has done an excellent job. That night, the midnight, like it started at 5:40. It got recognized at 5:40. Within morning 9 o'clock, everyone was being evacuated mostly. But the problem with this gas is 40 minutes is enough for people to get affected adversely, and 5 minutes of inhaling will make them into what we can say, they can faint.
So Shaurya, tell us, what is the problem that you want Shyam to, solve? What is it that you think Shyam's, experience could help you in this sort of a situation? Tell us if you have any question.
As of now, no. In the meantime, when we discuss, I'll give the.
You're doing a great job, Shaurya. Continue doing this.
Yeah, actually, I should thank my friends. Like they are in that area. So the problem is again food and shelter.
Yeah. So the problem is again with food and shelter. I think Shaurya, you should, like Shyam said, there's a lot of teamwork required in these times, and friends, family, acquaintances, everybody comes together to solve these kind of problems. And being students, I think you get a very, very good on-ground, first-hand experience while solving these problems.
Actually, I have a question for Shyam.
Sure, go ahead.
Shyam, there's a new incident that came up. Like the chaos happened 2 days back, and now there's a political agenda that's growing up here. So what happened? The latest incident is people who got affected. They are doing a kind of protest near the factory gates without any social distancing, and they are with the dead bodies. They are with the dead bodies doing the protest. Whoever have expired, they were not buried. The whole people were actually motivated to do a protest with the dead bodies. I don't think that will create a more problem. And how these protests are even stopping the good works of NGOs. Those people what they are doing, and they are demanding that factory has to be removed from here immediately, and they are not giving any kind of jobs. So today my friends are in a good work supplying food there, and these protests have made their work so much difficult. So at these crisis times, how can we mobilize the mob? At least tell them glimpses that we are there for you. We are there to help you, so don't panic.
Okay, Shaurya, I think mobilize the mob means, instigating people to come together. So probably I'll rephrase it for you.
No.
How can
I'm telling it in a positive way to people who are protesting now. Please calm down so that the good activity should go on.
Very well said, Shaurya. Like you're inspiring, motivating the citizens. How do you motivate citizens, Shyam? How do you motivate people to calm down during these situations? Shaurya is on ground and asking you about
there, Shaurya. And these are the kind of real problems which will give you so much of learning which no MBA or campus learning will ever give you, right? These are real life problems. So just tell me, how many people is this? When you say there are people collected outside the factory, how many people are you talking about?
Actually, 500.
500. So I don't. So there are two sides to it, right? So one is what does there are two parties who can contribute in this. One is the local people of that area who know these people who have gathered along with NGOs, and the second part are the civil administration, police, Navy, or whoever else is there for the law keeping. Now, what needs to be ensured is matters will get worse if it becomes a law and order problem. both for people who are protesting as well as people who are making sure of the law and order. The only people who can contribute here are not the NGOs, are people who know the people who are protesting. So if these NGOs and your friends can mobilize people in that region who make impressions, as in, in every place you will have one person locally in that village who everybody listens to. Identify those kind of people. In typical MBA language, Ananya, you'll remember, these are the things which are called change ambassadors. Never go into this fight as an NGO saying, I am an NGO, I'm telling you guys back off, I'm telling police back off. Doesn't work. You will get beaten up. So don't get into it. Right? What you need to do is find out people from that local population, especially those whose families have been impacted but are still willing to chip in and contribute. Right? Find out those kind of people, people who have lost their friends but are still willing to talk sense. Get those people to talk to the people who have gathered there, because the typical temperature in these kind of areas is going to be very high. Anything that you go in with, people are going to say, but you have not lost anybody. This is my relative whose dead body is here. So don't teach me. So the biggest thing is only a person who's gone through it can talk sense in this place. One, of course, is you use typical police way, clear up the entire thing, but that will flare up very badly. So if I were in that place, I would definitely scout for, say, 10, 15 people from that local population who can talk and influence people and drive your message through those people without you or the NGOs going into the thing. Non-locals should not get into solving a local problem. That is when it becomes worse. So always channel the message to the mob through people who they look up to, irrespective of political differences. I know there will be BJP, Congress, TRS, all this will come in there, and a lot of TV channels will come and create more confusion. But if you can do this successfully, I've seen this getting done, especially in Kerala when the floods happened, right? Through local people who have a voice in that area is what you can do this best. And these are typical things which are done best at the grassroots level. The same discussion you should have with the civil administration, saying that we are talking to these influencers and change ambassadors who will work it out for us. Give it time. Do not get into any hasty action on the administration side. So that is the role the NGO will have to play in standing in between, but not getting into it and becoming giving gyan there. Does it make
Thank
sense?
you, Sean. Actually, that
I know
makes
it is
a lot
easy
of
to
sense.
talk. I know it is easy to talk like this, Shaurya. I have been in this kind of scenarios earlier when I was working in naval dockyards and things like that, where very violent protests happen. But yeah, this is the channel along which my thinking would work in these scenarios.
Thank you, Shyam and Shaurya. That was very, very, very helpful for all of us that go to the grassroots levels, get the problem sorted at grassroots level. Do not let it, flare up unnecessarily. It will only come back to haunt you and hurt you. So we go back to the question that Rohit asked Sham, that I'd like to know the future scope and applications of using drones to tackle something like COVID-19. How can drones come of use? Sham, your background with the military, please help us understand this.
So I don't see Rohit here, so I don't know. But yeah, we can still discuss the question that he's raised. But I don't know whether he'll probably Kiran or somebody can convey back to him. I don't see Kiran. Yeah, Kiran is there. Okay, so see, we tend to look at something and say, okay, this can solve all problems in the world. What can a drone do, right? There are two things. Oh, perfect. Rohit is joined. Okay, so there are two things that a drone can do. One, identify. Second, act. These are the only two things drones can do, right? Now, let us bring the drone. Let's say there are two drones. We've got one identifying drone and we've got one acting drone, right? We bring that into this forum where, let's say, we are all in a village and there is one area in the village which has got COVID and we want to do something about it. Now, I'm just walking you through a typical, say, a military drone operation kind of thing in this kind of scenario, right? What do you first want to know? You want to know if, and these are applications which have been done. I've seen in Kerala, I've seen drones getting used. The other videos I've seen where drones are getting used to find out are people out and about when you're not supposed to be outside. So enforcing the lockdown is something for which drones can be done, where you can sit in one place and you can, based on the vicinity that the drone can surveillance, it can give you real-time feedback on which area people are coming out, where they're not supposed to be, number one. Number two, in terms of action, only action that a drone can do is what a drone does in farming. Right? What does a drone do in farming? It goes and sprays insecticides or manure or whatever you want from the air in a particular localized area. Another thing you need to look at is the higher the drone is. When you discharge something from higher up in the ground, it disperses wider. So if you want a stone to fall on top of a person standing on the ground, you need to drop it from really low. If you drop a packet of atta from 10 meters and 100 meters, it will be less effective. Now, I'm not aware of any disinfectant which can be aerially sprayed in the current scenario other than for fumigation. So on action front, I don't think a drone can be used. In this scenario, I only see it getting used for identification of people roaming around, or people congregating in areas which are not supposed to be, so that if you have one small police force of 20 people, where should I send them can be prioritized based on the surveillance that you get from that particular SHO vicinity. That's the only application I see right now, because you can't tell people, okay, come out, I'm going to spray disinfectant on you for treating you, because half the people might be patients, other half may not be patients. In that social distancing, the other half will also get sick. So yeah,
So
I mean,
I
that's
think surveillance,
I'm
monitoring,
not domain
tracking,
expert, but that's what.
right, Sham? Surveillance, monitoring, tracking. This is where you see drones application in
Absolutely, absolutely. And
COVID-19.
they are being used. I've seen a lot of police forces in the country which are using drones for this very successfully.
Okay, so Meenakshi is now asking our next question.
I've seen the question. So Meenakshi, I'm sorry, let me take a few seconds to package what I want to say. So there are few things, right? There's some things which will get impacted by COVID. There are some industries which will not get impacted by COVID. Again, my prediction. The reasons being hospitality industry, right? Related travel industry and tourism. These are the kind of things which, if you are given a choice, if somebody gives you 1 lakh rupees and say, okay, go for a holiday to Singapore, will you go today? If flights were there, you would think twice, right? So these are typical industries which will take time to recover. But I've seen globally what people are saying is that in 2 years, it will start coming back to normal. So these are interim short-term impacts of, I would say, maybe 12 to 18 months at most. I can't tell you specifically software jobs. I'm not a software engineer for freshers or with experience and things like that. But I wouldn't expect too much of an impact on this. For example, I can tell you about Amazon. E-commerce is hiring like crazy, right? If e-commerce is hiring like crazy, you need more people to distribute stuff, which means the last mile delivery is going to ramp up. If you are not comfortable going to a shop and buying, you will buy it online, which means you need X number of people more to deliver those same number of goods. If there are 20 people going out to deliver, you need a supervisor. If you have 4 or 5 supervisors, you need a manager. So that's an ecosystem which will get built based on this. Now, even most companies, IT, I'm not sure why it should get impacted in the current scenario. Ananya, add on if you know better, because I don't see an impact on, obviously hiring is not going to be as high as earlier, but I would think about 12 to 18 months, it should get back to normal, because I don't see an incentive or an input metric having been completely removed from the current scheme of things. It is like, there is a fire here, people are moving out. When the fire moves out, people are going to come back in.
Absolutely, Sham. So even I see this as a, temporary lull for the time being, especially for people in the software sector. The reason being is maybe there are projects that are getting into a limbo right now, or they are getting postponed for future or something. But like you said, like if e-commerce is growing, if digital world itself is ready to grow by leaps and bounds, because physically now it's very difficult for people to come together, do things. Definitely there are softwares, there are digital infrastructure that is required to support all of this. So the software world is not going anywhere out very soon. There might be some demand issues currently, but I'm sure in the future, like at least in the next 18 months, those things will start getting ironing out. There might be projects that will come up which are very specific to certain industries like healthcare, certain industries, use cases like e-commerce. certain industries like hospitality and travel, which will go through a huge change right now. You will not go to restaurants and movie theaters, etc., like you used to go to. So there is a lot of digital enablement that has to happen from that end also. Service delivery has to be enabled. So a lot of things will happen with software development is going to, support. So I think it's a great time for people in the IT industry and people with coding skills.
I would also
And
think, extending what you're saying, Ananya, I think digital payments is something which is really going to go up. We're going to start seeing a lot of less traction of cash as a transaction medium, which means people, not everybody's got a credit card or a debit card, right? But most people have a Paytm or a Google Pay. So these are things which are going to grow because people want to avoid contact for these 12 to 18 months. So all again, coming back to the earlier question, all you need to do is think of what is the current world, what are the problems that I am going through, what would I do different in the next 12 to 18 months, extrapolate into 1 billion. That is what the country is going to do.
Great. So any other questions, guys? We'll quickly, address them in the next 5 minutes. If you have any other questions right now, it's all right. You can, go ahead and type it. So one question, can students opt for open courses and improve their skill set during this gap? And Shaurya wants to add on to the previous, discussion we had. So Shaurya, please finish this in the next 2 minutes. We'll take up the next question.
Definitely. Yesterday we had a discussion on this. One of my colleague has called me, and he's a marketing guy, and he's telling that we will have a huge demand for telemarketing in this crisis. You see any kind of services. Some person has just asked about MOOC, right? So when you add on to this, now there are many school-going children who are not being offered their education. Like they had a huge gap. So you see any Vedantu, you see the Unacademy or Vedantu or any kind of education software or even telemedicine. All these services, they want people who can market their services as of now, but the marketing can't go on physical basis, and they need many telemarketers who can talk and make them understand the importance of the services, and they can grow their sales. And as a business student, I will tell, for any organization, sales and marketing are the bloodline for revenue. So if you are very well versed with convincing people with your communication, telemarketing is going to be in huge demand as of now.
That's a wonderful point, Shaurya. I mean, I am blown away with what you just said, because telemarketing, we are seeing this already, that, because people cannot go to, customers and speak, it has become more important to, connect with them over phone, over webinars, over, digital medium, in order to convert your cold leads into warm and warm into hot. So all of these things have already started in the sales pipeline. So brilliant point made, brilliant. So we'll go to the next question, Sham. Can students, again continuing with what Shaurya said, can students opt for MOOCs and improve their skill during this gap period? Like open courses, how important are open courses at this point in time, and what are some of the failure points you see most important?
Okay, so to Kiran's question, can students opt? The simple answer is yes, they can. Should they opt for open courses? Probably we can discuss. I would say it's all a question of how comfortable are you dealing with ambiguity, and how comfortable do you think are your skills for dealing with the current scenario. Now, that's like me going and doing PMP when I left the Navy, right? People said, you've done project management, if you do PMP, you'll get a job. Nobody gave me a job because I had a PMP. So if you need, and this is a group of what now, maybe about 13, 14 people, right? So I can't tell you, okay, go and do this course. But what I see definite value in is analytical skills. If you're able to make sense out of tons of data, that is a skill which is going to help you in the next at least 5 to 6 years. For sure, this is here to stay, right? Till we automate most of those analytic capabilities. Second is in terms of improving communication skills, which will be a lifelong learning for you in case that's something which you want to focus on. Apart from that, in your chosen domains, whether it's software, whether it is marketing, whether it is operations, there are a lot of courses which you understand, okay, I can do these things. So simple, a good hobby to do right now is scout through job pages. If there was no corona right now and you were looking for your first job or your next job, what are the kind of jobs you would apply for based on your skill set, right? Most important is which are the jobs where you can sell yourself. You should be able to answer the question, why you? If you find, say, 20 jobs of that nature where you could apply, then look at, do I have all the qualifications which are required? There'll be mandatory qualifications, there'll be desirable qualifications. Look at how many of these do I have right now, and which are the courses which I can do, which can get me through these interviews. Finally, in the interview, everybody requires convincing and communication skills. So if that is not a strong point, brilliant time to learn that. So I would say analytics, communication, and pick up one particular subject which you find missing in your resume, which is the delta between what you want to do and what you're doing right now.
Shyam, I'm definitely going to pick up one subject now from what you said.
I've been doing it for the last 3 months. So yeah,
it's a very, very pertinent point that you need analytical skills, you need improvement in communication skills. A lot of us think we are very good at communication. We're not. Some are good at speaking, some are good at written communication, some are good at interpersonal skills, like you said. That is also a type of communication, like understanding what the other person is, what cues the other person is giving from his body language and what he's trying to say within the words. So communication skills, I think, are very, very important, like you said, and analytical skills, because there's a lot of data that organizations are generating today. There is no way to analyze those data. So guys, maybe you could figure out what courses match with what interests you, and then there these are taking you in terms of jobs. So great advice, Shyam.
so,
Any other question? Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just going on offshoot. I saw you writing LinkedIn there. I also was listening to your discussion with Nanda the previous time, right? I think there was one more point which you discussed during that also, which is LinkedIn. Just wanted to add a couple of points on that, because a lot of things Nanda had mentioned regarding LinkedIn and how important it is and things like that. Just wanted to put in my 2 cents here, right? LinkedIn is a very powerful tool. It gives you exactly what you make out of it, which means, number one, your profile on LinkedIn needs to match what you say you are. If you say that I'm an outstanding leader and I bring a lot of sense into meetings and I make strategy for the organization, I have saved 20 lakhs from my previous company in the last 1 year, and then you've got a profile picture with a hat like this and with a cigarette in hand, nobody's going to take you seriously. So make sure that what you're writing there, what you say you are, and what you are being seen there as you are should match. Number one. Number two, there are a lot of columns in a LinkedIn profile, including what voluntary work have you done, what courses have you done, what job experience do you have, what grades did you get. So if you're a person who's consistently been a topper in different courses, you can bring that out there. Because if I'm looking at 10 different profiles, if one profile says CGPA 9, CGPA 9, 90%, 92%, obviously that strikes out to the 9 others, right? That's one. Second is, in terms of making connections on LinkedIn, a good way to understand that is, somebody who's on my LinkedIn connections, if that person comes and asks me, there is this job which is being posted by somebody in your network, can you refer me for that job? I should be able to say yes or a no, depending on, I should know what you're doing and are you good enough for the job. If not, somebody being in my network makes no difference. So there is a trend which, I mean, I'm also guilty of this. When I was leaving the Navy, I did this. You see a lot of famous names, try to get connected to those people. Even when we were in ISB, Ananya, you remember, right? Heidi Rosen. Everybody went and Heidi Rosen is a very, very world famous personality. Keith Ferrari, there's another very big writer. At that time, I thought having these people on my connections is a big thing, or and I actually went around saying, "Oh, I have," as if me and him go out for sports together or something like that. So, it makes no difference. be very choosy about this, because people will start blocking when in between I got on a daily basis about 5 invites from some KV students. I don't even know who they are. Why would I add somebody into a network? And when I'm saying I'm saying Ananya would think the same, Nanda would think the same, right? Unless you know the person and have worked with them, nobody will add you. This is not Twitter or Instagram or Facebook. This is a professional network. So maintain that dignity of connecting up in a network. You meet a person at work, have a one-to-one discussion, and you know that, okay, this person knows my name and I've discussed this particular thing. With that connection, send a small note along with your connection message saying we met at so and so. For this reason, I think I would like to get connected to you. Those are the connections that help you. Other than that, having 2,000 connections on LinkedIn will not help, right? So just keep this in mind. Creating your profile well and connecting with the right people at the right time are two things which will really help you on LinkedIn. They've helped me, so I'm just.
Shyam, this is unbeatable, that this LinkedIn advice that Nanda has also been, harping on. LinkedIn is a place where you not just put your thoughts out, but you're putting yourself out as a professional. So please, first thing, be a professional on that network. It is not Facebook, it is not Instagram, it is not TikTok to keep posting some videos, some random things. People are not there to see those. You must have seen a lot of posts that get 1,000+ likes with some random comments, random, stuff. That's not going to help you in your job, guys. It's not going to help you to reach out to the right people also. So my suggestion, and like Shyam also iterated, was that it's important to have a network which helps you. Even if you have a network of like 200, 300 people who are very good at what they do and very good at advising you what to do in your career, I think it seals the deal for you. You don't have to have 1,000, 2,000 people, following you and then not helping you
And
with
yeah,
that.
there's another, I want to share another stupidity which I have done, and I want to warn people against doing that, because the best way to learn is from others' mistakes, right? So I always used to, when I was leaving the Navy and going to ISB, I always thought I wanted to get into Amazon. So I thought if anything that relates to Amazon, if I post on LinkedIn, I thought Amazon will take notice and say, wow, this guy is very interested in Amazon. Never works, guys. Nobody
Yeah.
is bothered. Satya Nadella is not going to be mega impressed if you keep sharing what he posts on LinkedIn. He's not even, once he shares, I'm sure he's not even looking who's shared or commented or liked on it, unless you know him personally. So just picking up a company and filtering for their news and sharing on LinkedIn also doesn't help. As much as it's my happy birthday, I feel very reserve that for Facebook and Instagram. Like Ananya said, bring in the professional things on this. Post. You can write posts, you can write articles on LinkedIn if you feel very passionately about something, right? Let's say you have, for example, Shaurya mentioned just now being in the thick of things. This is not an real life scenario which everybody gets. Shaurya, I would recommend you should write an article on LinkedIn. How was it, facing a scenario like this for the first time? What are the challenges? What are the learning? 1,000 people who have not gone through it will get to learn. And each of us would have had some scenario like this where you've picked up something, where some company did something which really delighted you, which you want to share. That, okay, this in terms of customer experience made huge impact on me. I'm a loyal customer. I did that once. I wrote a piece on GoAir because they did something, on Indigo because they did something absolutely outstanding. So these are kind of individual contributions you bring in as yourself rather than just posting or sharing something.
That's just amazing, Shyam. I've been getting private messages saying, amazing session. We want to put this up on YouTube and stuff like that. Guys, we'll share the link with you
I hope
guys in your.
I hope Kiran and you are not messaging this to each other.
No. So I will just, I'll request Kiran to send the link of this, entire video with questions, because the questions are amazingly good. I mean, this session, it's been really good, the questions, guys. So keep it up. I'll request Kiran to send this video to everyone, to your classmates. Please share it with your classmates so that they also benefit out of this session. I know 11 a.m. is not a great time to interact with
Gives you
students,
ISB,
but
gives you
yeah,
ISB
guys.
memories, Ananya. 8 o'clock classes.
Yes, absolutely.
So again, open offer to Kiran and Ananya both. If you guys let me know what are the kind of subjects that you want to have for the series, I can probably help you connect with CXO level leaders in different organizations who would be more than willing to do this, because like I said, everybody's got time. People are sitting at home and they've got all the time in the world now. So, and a lot of people are willing to have this kind of conversations. So let me know what are interest areas that you have in the series, and I can set you up with the right people.
Thank you so much, Sham. That helped the students a lot. Does anybody else have a question? Because we've just 4 minutes on the clock, guys. So anyone has any ending remarks, questions, anything, we'll be happy to take it. Or we'll end this session now.
How can we connect with you people?
Okay, so this is, yeah, please introduce yourself.
Myself Suman Sharma from Delhi. And I just want to know, how can we connect with you people?
Yeah, sure. So what we're going to do is we're going to circulate our email IDs also. So I will give Kiran my ID, and all the speakers that I'm getting on the, on the series, I will introduce them to the participants, especially the participants who have registered. We have all their email IDs. So I'll introduce any questions, any mentoring sessions that you want from them. We will definitely, get you guys in touch with them. Yeah.
Okay, I'm in contact with the Kiran basically by the phone number. So, can you give the information through him?
Sure, definitely. I'll just ask Kiran to circulate an email ID from YIS's end, and then we can have a formal channel wherein we interact with each other. And if any mentoring session, 1:1 mentoring session is required with the students, we'll be happy to arrange that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
No more questions, I'm assuming, guys. So
actually, Ananya, no more questions, but actually, Sham was asking about future sessions, right? Future series and all. So I was having an opinion like, can we have something about career transition? We are not only students are actually in this KO, but many people who are in the mid of their career, who started their career just initially 1 year, 2 years back, are also having many problems with this COVID-19 and sudden lockdown. So if we can have something more about career transition, that will be highly beneficial.
That would be great, Shaurya. So we'll take suggestions also from everyone on what to speak on the next time, and we can curate the speakers accordingly. So I'll get in touch with Kiran for this. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. You've been a great audience, great speaker we've had today. Like Sham, honestly, I have learned a lot from this session today. So thank you so much for making time.
And
Ananya, can I speak for 1 minute? Ananya, can I speak for 1 minute?
Exactly. Yes, Kiran, you have 2 minutes now on the clock. Please go on.
Yeah, Sham, thank you so much, and thanks for your kind help also. You extended help for us. Actually, we expected more, but problem with this maybe the timings problem is there. And what we'll do, we'll actually circulate these videos because many of them are not having internet is the one more problem, and we basically have students from rural background. I think we have around 65% of students are from rural areas. So live programs may not work out for them. Maybe we will upload them and we'll send links to them. So that will be great help to them also. So what we expect is like maybe in future, we have student base, as I said, marginalized community, and most of them are rural based students. So we might be organizing some programs related to improving their communication skills, maybe how to start their career from grassroots levels or from the starting level. So how to catch up with their skill set. So these are the kind of programs actually we wanted to conduct, and that will be helpful for them also, because we actually wanted to reach out to this section. Our intention is to reach these marginalized communities and these rural-based students. So that is our intention. So in future, maybe we may ask some help regarding this, maybe connecting with some people who can help us in building this skill set. So thank you, Sam, for giving this opportunity.
It's been a pleasure interacting with this group, and very good questions. Thank you, Ananya, for very excellent moderation of the session. And Kiran, going forward also, let me know if you feel there is anything with which I can help. More than willing, either by connecting you to people, or if you want me to come back for some other subjects, which whatever I can pitch in with, more than willing.